So it would be back in 2013 when I got a diagnosis of systemic lupus.
Mm.
And
Oh
I
man.
had to come off my very nice, cushy job, corporate job that I absolutely love so much. And I had to figure some shit out, right? Because I knew going back to corporate America wasn't going to be the ideal situation for me and what I wanted to do. So I had to figure out what does that look like for me going forward because I've always been a person who has something going on, who's doing something, right? So sitting around was not going to be an option. And I'm one of those people where it's like, okay, what is lupus? Let's figure that out. But I got lupus, but I'm not about to let lupus have me. So we gonna fight
Facts.
tooth and
Right.
nail. I might lose some days might be hard, but I'm gonna fight you tooth and nail all the way. And so I had to figure it out. And that's literally how my business was birthed.
Oh, that's
Okay,
epic.
so it's like Frank, you had a battle with the Big C, right? And you kind of
Yeah,
overcame
yeah.
it.
It's been 20 years now, so like 2005. It's one of those things,
Yeah.
it's like when you get a health scare like that, it does change your perspective on
Yes,
life. You know what I'm
yes.
saying? Like I felt like I was young. Also what? I might have been, I would think I was 19, 20 at the time.
Okay.
So I was still young, but it was still like, yo, this shit could go, haywire at any time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, those health scares usually are like they change a lot of people for the most part, generally, you know what I'm saying? You don't wish it on anybody, but it's one of those things where it does push it in perspective, especially if you've been feel like you've been slacking or you haven't been
Yes.
following your dreams or doing things that make you happy, and then that happens, and you're like,
Mhm.
yo, this shit could go south at any moment. So it does change you for the better,
Yeah,
generally. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. And it puts things into perspective, right? On what's really important. After something like that, you have a tendency not to sweat the small stuff. It's like, call me when you got a real problem, because what you talking about ain't really nothing to be
Right.
talking about.
No,
Man,
that's facts.
one of Jeezy lyrics say, "What you complain about? At least you ain't got cancer." And like,
Man, I'm like, come on with a real problem. Then we can talk
right.
about it.
So,
Until
so
then,
what then became important to you after you found that out? Right. What became important to you?
oh, so really being intentional about life and relationships and setting boundaries, right? It became really important for me to manage stress and my environment. And so if you wasn't helping me accomplish the goal and get to where I was trying to do and help me be healthier and beat this thing, there's no space.
Hmm.
There's no space for you, right? And so becoming super intentional, one, about what I want, because like that cliche of you don't know when your time is coming was no longer a cliche, right? That's not a
Right.
cliche anymore. That's like a real life thing. Like tomorrow could be it, the next day could be it, today could be it, right? I'm fine today, tomorrow I may not be so fine. And so being super intentional about relationships and what I wanted to accomplish in life. And so I started going hard for what I wanted, and especially in building this business. I knew I wanted to build a business that was going to support my life and not the other way around.
Facts. So let's talk about the transition. So you got sick, you was in corporate America, you got sick, and then you had to make a change. How was that transition, and where did you get the idea to pick the industry and the business that you started back then? Was it a passion of yours, or did you say, hey, I gotta find something to pick, let me pick this, see how that goes, and then it just happened to work out for you?
So it was experience combined with passion. So in corporate America, that's what I did. I did administration and operations, managing ambulatory care centers, supporting chief exec offices, and so that was always a love for mine. I love fixing stuff and making sure all the parts work together to get to the end goal. I hear people talking about. And so started doing some research and realized there was a whole industry of what they call virtual assistants, of people working from home doing admin work. And I'm like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. I could have been at
What?
home doing this all the time.
Instead
I've
of
been getting
driving
up,
to an
going to work,
office, yeah.
driving through traffic. Like, I'm like, you
Gas.
you can't be serious. And so I started learning everything I could about the virtual assistant industry. I put up job profile sites on like every job site there was. I made me a makeshift website of what I knew how to do. And I literally started sending out proposals and telling people like this was my business and this is what I do. And
Right.
so my mother was my first paying client. I tell her I can't really count her in the statistics because she gonna support
Shout
whatever I do.
Mhm.
out to my
Um,
dudes.
of course. And then 6 months later, I got my very first client, lady that lived in Florida. She took a chance on me and I went heads down, focused on doing a good job for her. And then she called me one day and she was like, "Do you travel?" And I said, "Do you pay to travel?" And she
She
was
gonna
like,
have to.
right. She was like, "I do." I was like, "Well, then I travel." And so she booked me, a flight and a beautiful hotel room. And then I told my husband, I'm like, "Okay, now you got to take off work for the weekend because I don't know this lady from a can of paint. I just met her on
That's
the
right.
internet. I could get down to Florida and get kidnapped or whatever." And
Chopped up.
so he flew to Florida with me. She set me up in a beautiful hotel and paid for everything. And I supported her on the ground with her event. And it was the first time I had seen somebody make like thousands of dollars in a matter of minutes. Like literally,
Ooh,
people were just handing over credit cards. And we did like $40,000 in like 30 minutes. And I was like, whoa, what the hell just happened?
Wow.
crazy. And
Man.
I'm the type we want to know, like, if you can share,
Yeah.
what was she selling? What was her product
Landed
It
or
was
you a
a
whale.
coaching program. It was
coaching?
a coaching
Okay.
program. So it wasn't even a physical product. It was a coaching program. She was a psychotherapist and she was teaching other psychotherapists how to build a six-figure practice.
No, that's a bar.
And I
That's
was like, okay, this could be a real thing. Like I have literally tapped into something.
Hmm.
Like, let me get back to Chicago and really start mapping this thing out. And I took
right.
everything that I learned in corporate and I started applying it to my business. I'm like, oh, we have policies in corporate. We need policies for my business, right? We had a budget in corporate. I need a budget for my business, right? I need to start doing all these things. Let me figure out my client experience process and onboarding. And I went heads down and then she started referring her other colleagues and they started referring their
Hey,
colleagues. And before I knew it, I had more work than I could handle myself. So I hired my first assistant.
dope.
Adam.
And
And then I was like, oh, this a thing. Like they just kept coming. So I just kept hiring, more assistants. And then I was like, oh, I got to figure out how to get this agency thing under control. And so I hired a coach for myself to teach me how to build an agency.
no, that's
Hold
dope.
up. She just went from 0 to 60 real fast, right?
That
So like
part.
uh hey best friend, the new client, right? Hey new best friend.
Right. That
Uh
part.
and so like I want to talk about booking her, right? So with 6 months from you hook your mom dukes
Yes,
up till you trudging through the mud, through the thick of it, trying to find somebody that could give you a chance, right? But
absolutely.
not only did you find somebody to give you a chance, you found somebody, a best friend, right? You found your best friend
Sure
to give you a
did.
chance, right? So talk about those 6 months until lead landing her.
Whew, you're talking about thank God for a husband that had a job,
Mhm.
right? Because I think a lot of times people don't realize the back end support that you get when you're trying to build this thing too. So, that took a little bit of the pressure off because we still had that. But at the same time, our income has still been reduced by 50% because I wasn't working, right? So I was literally sending out proposals every single day. I was online every day sending out proposals. I was building my systems. What do I need to be working on right now while I'm waiting for clients to come? So when they come, that's not a piece that I'm trying to figure out. It's already in place and ready to go. So I was setting up
Facts.
systems and policies and processes and sending out proposals every single day. I was telling people
Grinding.
every single day. I started doing some work for free, right?
Mm,
Just so I could get the testimonial and start building the social proof that I was actually good at what I said I could do.
right.
I took some low paying gigs at the time, $20, $25 an hour, you know what I'm saying, just so I could get that social proof. And then when I got it, it
It was
was
off.
it
Right.
was off and running from there because guess what? I got a testimonial from her. Then I started
Right.
getting testimonials from the people that she was referring to me. And then next thing you know, now I got me a politician from Washington that's on my client roster.
Let's go.
There
No,
you
that's
go.
dope. I think we gotta take it back just a little bit for and explain some things.